So, I'm not sure about you, but I feel like after playing in Natlan region for a while, it doesn't seem like the Genshin experience I'm used to. From character designs to exploration to really weird power creep, things just seem to be out of place. And so in this video, I want to talk about all of this because I find it really interesting the way I experienced Genshin these past few months. And I don't think I'm the only one here. So let's talk about some of the crucial things that I believe are affecting the game right now. But first, this video is sponsored by Corepunk, an isometric open-world MMORPG that's bringing back the golden age of classics such as old-school RuneScape and Vanilla WoW. Not only that, it features elements from MOBA games, where each character has unique and responsive skills, but there's also 6 classes, with new one added each month, as well as satisfying professions and crafting, plus there's deep itemization and multiple branching talent trees with weapon specializations. And the world is super big already. There's 3 biomes, 12 world bosses, and over 350 quests featuring fully voiced characters by professional VAs. Best of all, there's no pay to win at all. It's a buy-to-play model with in-game store that only offers cosmetics. So start playing Corepunk in early access by using my link in the description, buy one of the bundles at the store to join the early access, and help support my channel. Look, let me be clear first. I've actually enjoyed Natlan region as a whole quite a lot. As you can see, I've obtained 100% exploration on quite a few zones. The story so far, in my opinion, has been pretty intriguing, especially if the captain is involved, and I also love the fact you can possess different kinds of cute saurians to explore Natlan. But I also noticed some weird design decisions, so I want to talk about quite a few of them in this video. And yes, I know about the Pyro Archon's motorcycle from Drip Marketing, which I'll cover a bit later in the video, but for now, let me talk about the exploration. Alright, by now, every single Natlan unit that came out has some kind of powerful mobility skill, like Mulanni riding her sharkboard on water, Kinich spamming his grappling hook, and of course, Chaska can literally cover massive distances with her flying gun. And I mean, if you're in Natlan and pulled for one of these characters, there's very little reason not to use them to accelerate exploration by a tenfold. Honestly, I think part of the reason why I was so motivated to 100% these zones was due to the fact everything was happening so quickly compared to any other region. However, if you step out of Natlan and go anywhere else with these units, they kind of become similar to any other unit that can move fast, like Yelan, Wanderer, Sayu, and so on. And it's strange really, because I don't know if you guys remember Skylanders, but I was obsessed with this collectible figure game. You put the figure on a special scanner and the Skylander shows up in your game, and then you can use their unique abilities. And it seems like the design philosophy for Natlan units being powerful in Natlan feels kinda inspired by Skylander expansion designs. For example, in Swap Force, some Skylanders were mandatory to pass certain bonus levels, and in Superchargers, Skylanders could literally ride vehicles in some levels, and you can even buy more vehicle figures to experience the game in new ways. However, anytime a new expansion came out, those Skylanders you used became outdated or less prominent compared to their own expansions they came with. So it's kind of funny how Natlan units are only great in Natlan in terms of exploration, but everywhere else they are completely tuned down. Anyway, sorry for ranting about Skylanders, I just wanted to finally find a reason to talk about it on this channel. Still, you know what else is super limiting but super strong for Natlan characters only? The artifact sets. Like, Obsidian Codex is just straight up unusable by anyone who's not have Night Soul Blessing State, but for Natlan units, it provides a whopping 40% crit rate boost plus 15% damage boost as well. While the Hero set, sure, the 2 set can work for units who are not from Natlan, since Night Soul bursts can be triggered by anyone, as long as there's one Natlan unit in party, and even the 4 set can provide a small but decent 12% elemental damage boost if a unit is not in a Night Soul Blessing state. And honestly, for some characters who are just built purely as supports, this can be a decent option. But this set absolutely hard carries someone like Kachina and Auroran, turning them into a similar power user as an animal character who utilizes VV set. But the thing is, going back to Obsidian Codex, I honestly think it was a bit too much to design it strictly around Night Soul Blessing state, because, for example, when Fontaine came out, the Hunter set at first was only really usable on Fontaine characters, but after Furina released, it actually became useful for many damage dealers thanks to the way she can constantly reduce HP party-wide. I mean, sure, later on Harmonic Whimsy showed up and was really only useful for characters who can actively maintain Bond of Life, but still, Obsidian Codex is completely limited to Natlan units only, unless Hoyo decides to release a unit in the future who can provide Night Soul Blessing state for anybody in the team. Anyway, so those are some of the design decisions I found weird so far, but what about the characters themselves? So far, a total of 6 Natlan units have been released, and starting with Milani, she's a big damage nuker who can perform especially well in vaporized teams. But if you miss even just one chomp, the damage performance goes down significantly. Some would say she power crept Neuvillette, but honestly, they both have their pros and cons. For example, Neuvillette is godlike at clearing multiple enemies super fast, while the longer you ride Milani's surfboard, the less chomps you can output, so without grouping, her AoE is situational. Then there's Kinich. The dude is absolutely a menace when it comes to wacky playstyle, and because of the way some of his passives and weapons are catered towards running Burning or Burgeon teams, he still doesn't power creep someone like Alhaitham, who reigns supreme in Hyperbloom team comms. Now, Shilonen, some would say she power crept Kazuha, but at C0, that's a bit of a stretch. Sure, her Elemental Shred lasts for 15 seconds compared to Kazuha's VV set, which only lasts 10 seconds, so that's 5 extra seconds that can be utilized by many more rotations and teams. On top of that, she provides healing, so any Farina comps will want that, and even the hero set provides almost identical damage boosting that Kazuha can do. Strictly speaking, if it's only against a single target, she can often be better option than Kazuha. However, the Samurai Boy can group enemies, which can still be relevant in harder events and Abyss or Theater modes. However, in a moment, I'll talk a bit about Natlan constellations. That's where things take a bit of a different turn. Finally, there's also Chaska. Funny thing is, even though she's so random with those bullets, but overall, I would say she's been an amazing exploration unit, especially in Natlan, when, yet again, there's enemies like Tenebris Mimiflora, whose shields can be reduced much faster with Night Soul aligned attacks, so Chaska can easily take them out within seconds. I mean, it's kinda annoying your older units suck against these enemies, but then again, at least it's not completely underwhelming design like Numa and Usia from Fontaine, where I barely noticed their usefulness. And then, of course, we have the 4 stars Kachina and Auroran. It's safe to say both of their values are super enhanced by the hero set, although in Auroran's case, his damage output against groups of enemies and the fact he can apply Electro makes him a surprisingly good 4 star, and his constellations aren't that crazy that you would need them to make him functional. So overall, I don't think Natlan units so far have been that crazy. Maybe aside from the fact Chaska has slightly power crept Wanderer in terms of exploration even outside of Natlan, but hey, there's also Pyro Archon, whose dreams were almost impossible to avoid on social media. And while I cannot talk about her just to keep my channel safe, I will definitely cover very soon. However, there's one last thing I want to quickly talk about. So, believe it or not, while at C0 most of the 5-star Natlan units seem great, it's the constellations that have been pretty wild. For example, C2 Shilonen becomes an absolute monster of a support, especially for Geo and Cryo teammates. Like, this is where she outshines even C2 Kazuha, and he's one of the few characters I have with this constellation. However, I will not pull for any Shilonen constellations, simply because her showcases as a support would become just too warped. But that's a very niche content creator problem to have. Then we have Milani and Kinich. Both of their first 2 constellations give them massive damage boosts. Like, there's only very few 5 stars in the past that had such a constellation power creep. I'm not even joking, it's all I've been hearing from a lot of Milani and Kinich players who pulled for their copies. Seriously, even at C1, Kinich's main big shot attack gains 100% crit damage boost. It's insane. And at C2, he can even shred enemies' Dendro resistance by 30%, plus turning first big shot into a mega shot, transforming him into a beast. I mean, you can see some testing I Win to Lose Gaming did and how broken Kinich felt. Finally, there's Chaska. The patch team building restrictions become lenient and her DPS becomes a ton better. So yeah, if there's one thing that Hoyo seems to be doing with Natlan units so far, it's the early constellation designs and how much more broken they seem to be getting. We've come a pretty long way from the 1.x character constellations, where they feel like almost a joke. Anyway, those were some of my thoughts so far about Natlan. Again, I like the region and the story, but I definitely wanted to point out some of the absurdities that are happening. I know some of you may have wanted me to talk about the ridiculousness of character designs, like Chaska riding her big gun, Kinich's pixelated dragon, or the fact Pyro Archon is shown on a motorcycle in drip marketing, but I first want to see this region's story fully unfold before giving my thoughts about it, because the sky is fake, as one Fandango once said. But yeah, I hope you guys found this video interesting, and I'd really appreciate it if you could press the like button and subscribe to my channel. We're coming very close to 5.3 update, and I'll be working sleepless nights to provide you guys with all the content you want, so make sure to subscribe. Thanks, and see you very soon.